Dawn, what is ERP?
Oh, that's a big question. It's enterprise resource planning software. Basically, it's software that will support a business or organisation that will need finance. So it's the GLAPAR, which is General Ledger, Accounts Payable and Accounts Receivable software. It will have logistics, which will be purchase orders, sales orders. It will have, there's warehouse facilities in there, so stocking, inventory management, HR, payroll, project costing and billing, and I'm just thinking what else I've missed out of all of that. Oh, budgeting, forecasting, expenses, so pretty much everything. The idea of it was to have a software system that would pretty much do everything that a business or organisation would need.
Right. Because I was thinking in my head then it's like 0 on speed. But
it is, yeah.
It's that, but a little bit more, isn't it? So it's kind of got, it sounds like it's got everything. It's a one-stop shop for a massive organisation, basically.
It is. It is actually 0 on speed. I mean, 0, to be fair, is actually a really good software system. So
I like it, yeah.
And we use that. But it is obviously not scalable to massive organisations, and that's where these softwares like SAP, Oracle, and what we support Unit 4 and Microsoft Dynamics would sit in as a larger organisations.
And what's the point that an organisation gets to when they go, we need this. We need to go from what we're doing now to now having ERP software or, something like your Oracle or SAP, and what are they currently feeling? And how would they even know to like go out to the market to find someone like yourself to help them transition to that?
That is a great question again. I mean, I've thought of it myself, and when, because we're scaling upwards, when do you actually go, because the current system's not working for you? And I think if you're making more workarounds outside of your system, then you have to start thinking about what the options are. ERP systems might not be the answer for you. It could be amalgamation of a few systems together which are interfaced, but it is at the point where perhaps your processes and your size is indicating that there needs to be a little bit more structure, and a bit more support for your staff, I'd say, and people working in areas that just, are not financy and don't get what's going on.
And who typically makes the decision within that organisation that goes, we're just making too many workarounds now. We need to look at some kind of centralised system. Who in the organisation is thinking about that and making that decision?
That would be quite a few people, I think. I think the noise would start probably on the ground level, or maybe at a higher level where people are wondering why things are not working and people aren't being able to do the job that they're needing to do in the speed that they need to do it. And then it would filter up probably to the C-suite. But realistically, boards are going to make that decision because the size of the software that they're looking at would be quite large.
So we're looking at if it's boards or C-suites that are making that kind of decision, we've got a decision timeline of potentially months, if not years.
Years, yeah. I was going to say some of them I've seen some rumble on for years, and then when the project actually starts, they can rumble on for years as well, and without real clarity. And that's, I've been looking at what we do differently, and I think it is clarity of everybody that's in that project, and making sure that people and individuals have the vision, whys, all of the reasons that make people want to come on board and push forward for a project. But even then you're dealing with large organisations, lots of different characters, lots of different people, so
that must be tough.
Yeah, it can be. It can be tough on both the people going through it and also, the people supporting the people going through it, and also the bosses of the people. So it's not to be sniffed at. It's not for a faint-hearted.
Yeah.
You need to really have a good old idea of how the implementation process goes.
So I guess that's why they need people like you.
Yes, I mean, I've worked at a corporation that we were doing an upgrade and re-implementation. So it's the same system that we were going from and to, but we were re-implementing it to design it better, which is probably where I first got my little bit of entrepreneurial spirit. And we did it alone, and got quite a long way through the project, pretty much about a month before go live, before we actually needed to call in support. But that was a fairly small organisation. But if you've got lots of moving parts, you definitely need consultants that can help you through, depending on the size of your organisation, who and how many.
And you class yourself as a consultancy?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
What does that even mean? What does that mean nowadays to be a consultancy? Like, because I think the word consultant or consultancy firm, I think it gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
People say they are a consultant. What does it really mean to be a consultant?
In my mind, it's someone that is the expert of the thing that they're consulting on. Obviously for us, it's the ERP finance system, HR system, payroll system, arena, as it were. But what consultancies sometimes forget is that they might be the experts on their software, but they're not the experts on the customer's structure, organisation and the ways of working. And that's working with your customer and clients in a manner that means that you're listening to them, is also really key.
Well, that's the thing I kind of thought about really, is that you are almost the conduit between the technology / the solution and their needs and requirements, problems, feedback. You need to be able to, you definitely need to be an expert in both, right?
Yeah, so you kind of need to understand businesses and how they can run better. And also, how can that system fit into the process that this client wants it to? Is it possible? Does the process need to change a little bit? But when you start changing processes, then you obviously hit the change control button, and you need to obviously then change management button, and you need to start managing people and expectations. So there's a lot of moving parts. I've often started these projects or system reviews even, where you're suggesting to an organisation where they can improve and what they can do. That the size of it is just, even when you've done it several times, is still quite astounding.
Well, I've heard the analogy certainly with the businesses that you're dealing with. It's like trying to turn an oil tank around in the ocean rather than, the nimbleness of a small business where, it's more like a fishing boat and you can turn it around. But so I guess when you're trying to implement change, you're going to come up against some strong characters and some strong challenges, aren't you?
Of course, yeah. I mean, that's the single most difficult thing to deal with. Technology works. It will work in whatever way you want. You can make it work in ways that you want it to work. But people, you can't make them do anything. So, you have to bring them along for the journey, and you have to be as much of a politician as any politician at times. Just listen to them and understand what they're really feeling, because realistically what they're feeling is fear. They're worried that their jobs are going to go or whatever, and it's it's the same we're seeing talked about quite a lot at the moment. So it's just explaining the situation, why it's changing, what they will be able to do as a result of the change, and what they can do with the time that they've got spare if it's all done properly.
Well, I was going to say, like, what are they fearful of? And clearly it's just change, isn't it?
Absolutely.
They know they need it. Yeah.
And people, I was talking to a lady the other day, and she absolutely knows that the change is needed. She's 100% on board with it, but it's still probably one of the most vocal about the pains. So it's just, it's just people. And it makes me smile at realistically.
Well, you got to.
Exactly. I think I've seen people within my team just get so stressed and frustrated with it. And it's like, there's no point. You cannot force. It's a whole adage of you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah, I feel that every day. Like with, it's in any industry, like when you're working in services and with clients, you've got to be able to get them to a point without actually making them do the thing.
Yeah.
But that's where I think if you're in the position where you can do it for them, you're in an advantageous position, because you can then just drink the water for them almost kind of thing. But when it comes to change, how often do you have to change though? How often does your approach have to change? Because surely the systems and the technologies change every day right now, I guess, don't they?
How often do I have to? Probably about 100 times a day. How often do I have to change? I think I've actually embraced being it's inevitable. And I know that's a cliche, but I think accepting that change is inevitable and embracing it means that you kind of, you can perhaps stay ahead of everyone else a little bit. As a small organisation, our consultancy is small compared to most.
How many are you?
We can flex between. The most we've had is about 30. At the moment, we've got a team of about 9 or 10. But we're working on specific projects at the moment that is taking all our focus. So, I'm happy with that at the moment. And I think with technology, actually, the more we're embracing it a bit, the fewer people can do more stuff. And I know that's what a lot of people are scared of at the moment. But the team, you get the right people, they all gel together. It becomes quite. It's well oiled and works really well together. So, good. But change every day.
Do you think? Kind of a little bit of a sort of change of direction, but do you think people need to be more generalist nowadays because of the amount of technology that is available, or do you think there is still room for the niche specialist?
I think you can still be niche specialist, because as much as I'd be surprised if they all disappeared within the next few years. I know AI has obviously taken a lot of, or causing a lot of change, and people are embracing a lot of change. But the organisations we talk about, they're big, they're the old oil tankers. They're not going to be able to just rip out their systems and start something else and change for something a bit more general. I mean, our business, we can do that. I'm currently designing a software to help us, because none of the softwares actually do everything we need it to. So that I'm doing that for our business, but as you can see the size of our business in comparison to some others. So,
but you're a consultancy of 10, and you have the ability to do that, don't you?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Whereas a team of, you were telling me about
10,000, it's just not. You've got, and that's the people movement as well as the technology. They probably would be able to do it really quickly, but they wouldn't be able to take their staff with them, or the resources that know the work and know how they run the processes wouldn't be able to go with them.
Talk to me about AI, because we're looking at technology and how we have to change every day, and clearly, it's still prominent. We've had ChatGPT 5 recently released at the time that we're talking. Talk to me about how AI is going to affect big businesses. Is it actually going to affect them as much as people are saying?
I think my opinion is it will affect businesses. I think at the moment, big businesses are more worried about how they control their staff using AI, how they control their data getting out. That's the more bigger concern, because obviously from privacy policies, you've got to be careful what you put out there on AI. So I think that's what large organisations are more worried about. Will it affect them? Of course it will. They're probably utilising it in ways that they don't realise already, like we all are. So, I mean, and yeah, it is, I think, how quick it will happen, I don't know. I mean, we've seen such change in that arena over the last 2-3 years that it's just mind-blowing.
It's interesting you use the word control, because I think a lot of people out there would say that the creators of these large language models and these AI corporations, that's their way of controlling us potentially, and controlling the narrative and controlling the data. But you know, we the episode we released today was with a professor of computer science, and he basically said that these large language models are getting worse, and you know, it's because it's a snake eating its own tail almost. But the word control is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think that kind of encapsulates what big businesses are potentially thinking about technology. Is like, you know, we don't have any kind of control over the technology is moving so quickly that we can't keep up with it. Therefore, we can't control it within our business. And I guess from your experience, even if in just conversations that you're having, is that a recurring theme that keeps coming up? Or
yes, yeah. Well, mainly, sorry, I'd say we work across all sectors, and definitely within the private sector, it's talked about. We had a customer ask us, you know, months ago about what improvements we could utilise to improve their experience through AI. And, you know, that was way ahead of it becoming really big, because that was last year, I believe. So, but the public sector is I'd say no at the moment. I haven't heard. I do know it's being used, because I've known a few people working within councils that used it, but
why are they so hesitant? Is it?
I think it's because it's a bigger tanker.
Right.
I mean, public sector organisations. Excuse me. Can I start that again?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
Public sector organisations, their complexity is massive. They have so many different services within there that it's a organisation. Business on steroids is a public sector organisation. So, and that's why I think at the moment I've not heard too much from that sector.
Is there even the will within public sector to use it?
I don't know. Probably, I would say. But I think, again, it is a big old organisation to move and potentially... I mean, there's obviously the NHS, they're using it, so that's public sector.
How are they using it?
Well, through doctors are using it for diagnosis of things, I believe, outside of my expertise. But I know that there are areas that they're being used. AI is being utilised within the medical world. So it isn't a complete no. They're just bigger organisations to move. I mean, you think about it, police forces, they're quite reticent to go to the cloud, understandably, because of some of the data that they store. I mean, they do, but they have to have secure private cloud. So, you know, cloud's been around for what, 15 years, probably?
Quite a while, yeah.
So it just takes their time, and I don't know. I don't know. We don't specialise in the public sector, so I'm not sure how that will pan out.
And what about your personal experience with AI? You were saying before we went live that you were a bit of a Luddite. I was
public sector about 18 months ago.
That would kind of explain a lot then, because you know, talking about public sector, and the ability to use AI, and maybe that kind of like fed into you a little bit.
Yeah, no, no, I acted like the public sector. I meant.
Oh, right, okay.
No, 18 months ago, probably not even that. Probably I was like, oh, is it just a fad? The things that you heard I heard when the internet was coming in, and it's like it can't be as big as it is. And then it got more and more. And someone suggested to me just try it for business, because I was, you're a solo person in charge of a fairly large organisation for an individual to run. I was struggling with everything like standard operating procedures, getting people on this and that and the other. So I tried it, and it blew my mind. And I was like, wow, this is for what it can help me do the monotonous tasks. It's brilliant. And that's what I think, I will ask it questions, but I have to, and that's where perhaps people don't, is you have to remember it has to be taken with a pinch of salt. You have to do a bit of research behind what it's saying as well. So I tend to use a few of the different platforms, not just one. That's
good, because I know a lot of people who might just be stuck with ChatGPT, or they use I don't know, Grok for whatever reason, but it's the individual LLMs have all got their own sort of like unique properties and what they're good at. But it's interesting that you went from a place of 18 months ago, like just not being hesitant about it, and now using it quite heavily in your everyday sort of process. I mean, research is brilliant at, not chat. I use Perplexity, but for coding, what we do is sometimes looking through coding to try and find an error. And these lines are, hundreds of thousands of lines long sometimes. So you can put the errors, like the lines of codes in, and ask it to find it, and it will find it practically straight away. So that can take a job from days maybe to a few hours to find something. So crazy.
Crazy. And that's the thing, is that's where I find it beneficial, but it's not using it as the tool, the ideas, the human side of it. You have to still remember that in all of what we're doing, I believe. Interesting.
I think as well, I want to know about you as a person. Like, where did you start out? Because I think to come into something like ERP, that's a huge industry to get into. So how did you even start? Like, what are your sort of humble beginnings?
My humble beginnings. I basically had a period of I can't remember, probably about 8 years, where I was pretty bored working, and it's just like didn't know if that was it. What was I going to do? And my mum basically told me, well, if you're bored, Dawn, do something about it. So I went off to college and did, because I left school at 16 with a teacher saying, just, don't bother doing A-levels, there's no point you, Dawn. And I was like, well, okay, I'm not up to much then.
Crazy.
So I hit college, started doing BTEC national certificates in business and finance. Really enjoyed the finance side of it. So I then did AAT, which is the Associate of Accounting Technicians, and then started CIMA, which is Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. And I basically worked my way through to a position where I was an accountant for a renewable energy company, looking after wind turbines and the generation and all of that. And they did construction and development as well, and they were implementing the software that we now support, and they were doing it in a manner for construction and development projects, and not for the generation of electricity. So I became a bit of a pain in the wherever to the project manager, and she in the end said, look, if you want to do this, why don't you just come and join us on the project team? So I was like, yeah. So I did. I loved it. And then I started looking all the tech code, all the, SQL. And I was surrounded by a group of consultants who I have worked with since. And, they run what are probably one of our competitors, but I've got a lot of respect for those guys because they taught me everything I knew. And then at the end of that project, they sent me to the US to do the same again. And I just loved it. I was just like, wow. And actually through SEMA, I was there's a system sector of the exams. I was like, this is so boring. I hate it. I would never work in systems, but then I ended up working in systems, because they're actually a bit more fun.
What did you hate about it though? If you ended up going into
the theoretical side.
Was it the theoretical?
Yeah, the theory. It was the diagrams and all of that. It's like, all the filing cabinets, and I was like, this is just not sensible. But it would have given me a good understanding of what I now can see in my head when I'm thinking systems and interfaces and integrations and APIs and all of that. So yeah, even though you find something boring when you're learning it, it still can end up your job.
I think that's interesting though, isn't it? Because even if you find something boring at the face of it, there's something exciting about getting under the hood of something.
Yeah.
It's like the learning process, being a master of something or being an expert in something is exciting in itself.
Yeah.
It's almost irrelevant what the subject is, because then you become knowledgeable about that thing and you can then utilize that skill.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I was an accountant, it was really cyclical. It was like, day one, you do this, day two, you do this. And I found it in the end quite a bit boring. Whereas obviously with the challenge of system, anything, you can pretty much, and there's no cycles to it. There are structures to projects and things, but you just never know what you might be hit with. So
what's the most exciting project you've worked on? And it can't be a current one.
No, I can't say that. I was going to say that's one of my most terrifying projects, but that's because it's unknown. So
right.
Yeah, so way out of my control. So yeah, there we go, control again. What's the most exciting? I think that the US, when I went to the US, basically to do the same again. The company where I was working at, we'd done it, released it in the UK and France. So I'd worked like south of France and UK over a few months. And then when they sent me to the US, it was basically to do the same again. And I think the excitement was learning American. Yeah. Because they don't talk, I thought, at least we don't have the language difference. But yeah, it's probably bigger than between us and France.
Really?
Yeah, at times they would literally stare at me blankly when I was saying something. I was like, wow, what's wrong? But I'd learn, and you adjusted. So again, that's probably where I started learning of people and how to adjust to people in different ways. But yeah, there is a very different working environment, and just understanding how lucky we are in the UK to have the working environment we have in comparison. So I think it was more what I learned outside of the project as well as through it.
Do they work harder than us over there?
I think they're made to work harder, but does that actually mean they work harder or not? Or are they a bit more apathetic? I don't know.
It's something I think about quite a lot actually when we're talking about the US versus the UK, because obviously they're about, they're like 5 times the size of us population wise.
Yeah.
But their output from a revenue point of view is obviously way greater than ours naturally. But everyone I know that's been over there to work or even just experience what it's like to be over there, they say the work ethic is just so different. Like it's far more collaborative. Everyone has a work ethic that's far greater than here in the UK.
I think because they have to though, and that's what as in I saw people literally just go. one day to the next disappear, and people just wouldn't talk about it. And you say, "Oh, where's so and so today?" And they were like, they say, "Oh, they've gone." It's like, "Oh, really?" So I think they have to, if they, so that maybe drives them a bit more to be collaborative, to make sure they're actually, can be seen to be adding to what's happening. So yeah, I think that's probably definitely the case. But as to whether or not all people like the environments they're working in, I don't know. I mean, but yeah, I loved working in the States, so it's not a negative.
No.
It's just being in the position I'm in now, looking after people and their jobs. It's like how I want them to feel at work is obviously not how perhaps what people in the US feel.
Yeah, I think we definitely have a more gentler approach, I think, to working here in the UK. But that aside, I mean, looking at Equinox, your consultancy, what's the, talking about the collaboration, and you're talking about the environment that you work in, what's the future of Equinox looking like? Like what are any grand plans?
Who knows? No, we are at the moment looking at developing products. We've worked in obviously consultancy, which is, we turn up, we help. It's trying to work out how some of the repetitive things we see can be helped with a product of sorts. It's in its infancy, so we're looking at a few customers at the moment that are going to work with us to help. And probably looking for a few other companies so that we get a fairly good base of variety across the private sector. So yeah, it's just literally starting out this month.
And is this a product that you would use, or would it be something that you would send out to companies to use internally?
It is a possibility to. It will be, well, yeah, it is actually ending up. Let me start that one again. I got all tongue-tied there.
That's all right.
It is a product that we'll be looking to sell. So yeah, it's because there are organisations between the large organisations and the small ones that just can't afford consultancies, and maybe with a product that would help them a little bit, we could we could bridge that gap, so it would actually empower the small to medium sized companies, I'd say, because I'm there and I know how difficult that that trying to scale upwards is without the ability and the money to be able to afford large software, but still needing something better than what we've got.
Yeah. So essentially you're almost building that tool to mitigate for potentially the lack of funding for a consultancy to come in and do it. So is that going to be built around your IP?
Yep.
Yeah.
We will embed a bit of our IP in there, use a bit of AI probably. But yeah, it's all, we've had a first person promoted as a digital designer. So he's helped over the last few months on a project that we were designing a brand new API, and has blown my mind. So yeah, he's heading that up for us. So yeah, it's exciting times.
Brilliant. What does Equinox believe in? Like what's the how because there's loads of consultancies around. I mean, I've spoken probably in the last sort of 5 years. I must have spoken to around at least 50 consultancies that deal in ERP.
Yeah.
Alone, never mind consultancies for anything else. How does Equinox differentiate themselves in the market? Like what is it that you guys are doing differently?
That's people first in my mind. because as I said, technology will do what you need it to do, and that's what we're there for. But it's always remembering that people need to come first in whatever you're doing. It doesn't matter the size of the project. It's making sure that they know why it's happening. We explain how it's happening, because at the end of the day, lots of organisations can't afford to keep us around forever. So it's making sure they're fully trained up and ready to take it on when we left. So it's making sure whatever we're doing, it's always people first, and it's remembering that from customers to my colleagues in-house to contractors and suppliers. So yeah, we're always thinking people first.
I mean, you say people first. I mean, and you've kind of explained a little bit in terms of what that means, but like people who are watching this, they may be like, well, a lot of people might say they're people first, because obviously it's not the technology. Like you say, technology will do what it's needed to do, and it's completely objective. But what is it about being people first that you believe really does like set you out from the competitors in the market, though? Because like people will say they're people first, but literally from a tangible point of view, what is it that you will do? Like if I don't know, for instance, there's a CFO who's maybe a little bit sort of Luddite, they're maybe a little bit averse to change. How do you guide that person from being stubborn and not wanting to change to then embracing the new solution and embracing what's happening with the company with what you're implementing?
It's a relationship you have to build. We're working with an organisation at the moment, and this is before we've even started working with them. I will help the teams that are prepping for boards and CFOs that are, a little bit adverse to change potentially, to fully prepare for those. And that's a service we provide. We don't charge for that. That's part of the onboarding process. And it's presenting it in a way to that person. And that's where it's difficult to explain, but you kind of get to a point where you read people and you work out what they want. Do they need data? Do they need stats? Do they need just a chat? Do they need explanation? Because some of these guys are busy. They might just need it very briefly. Some of them, whilst busy, want to understand the full details. So yeah, I mean, I've worked with a CFO who got a lot of respect for, and he was absolutely adamant, hated the software that they had. And I turned him around through a lot of just one-to-one chats over years. And I'm not talking, this is not quick. This is over, we've worked with this organisation about 6 years, and it was over probably about 3 years that he started to trust what I was saying, and then we would make changes and it would be seen and felt, and then he would start realising that what we're saying is, accurate. But it's not a quick fix, people first, and I think that's probably why it isn't done maybe as much as it should be, because there's a lot of time and effort goes into making sure people are happy and comfortable with things, and you won't win them all, and that's you have to walk away and be okay with that as well. Yeah,
that's interesting. I think from what I'm from what I'm hearing, from what you're saying as well, is that it's complete sort of like proving all the time. Like it's a cycle of proving what you're saying is true, because I think that's obviously how relationships are built, isn't it? It's that trust factor.
Yeah.
It's like, can I trust you on your word? Is what you're saying true? Yeah. Okay, you've been vindicated. Like, people, you've proved yourself right, and it's doing that time and time again. And I think where I had it wrong in my head actually was that this kind of thing might happen over 6 months.
No,
and actually it's more like 6 years, as you said.
Well, it can be. I mean, it can be quick. It depends what type. It depends the pressure of the situation, I would say. If there's a lot of pressure and you can win people around quickly, they'll have a lot of respect for you for a long time. So, I mean, that has happened to us as well, where we had a client come to us desperate because they were on a path to go live that they were going to miss. And they said, can you help us, like, now? And I said, yes. So we put together a team within a day or two to help them. And we quickly started changing things for them. So that was obviously from a point of desperation that they needed help, but it's, so in that case, it's not just saying what you're saying. I think you have to prove yourself basically time and time and again for people to, to give you that trust. And it's to do what you say you're going to do. I mean, when I was in the other side as a customer of this software, I saw many times promised things by contractors or consultants, and it wouldn't quite work how it said. And, and there was no explanation as to why. And, things might not work just as we've specified it, but there should have been a conversation about, well, this isn't going to quite work. Perhaps you can do it this way. There was a few that did that, but it wasn't the most of them. It was the few.
I think that's lost amongst a lot of people nowadays. Just, you can get so far in life by just doing what you say you're going to do.
Absolutely.
Even if you're not promising the world, which most people can't promise the world, but just doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
Is so basic.
Yeah. I mean, we failed on it. I mean, I failed customers and they're no longer customers of ours.
Well, that's it.
But that's our fault. That's my fault because I dropped the ball. You just have to own up to that. But you say what you're going to, that's it. Yeah. I mean, it's drilled into me as a kid. So do what
it must be hard though in your industry though, because there are a lot of things that are probably outside of your control, potentially with technologies, and people are unpredictable as well, to the point where you can't control every variable of a project, which might affect you doing what you say you're going to do. How do you deal with it then?
You have to learn to get used to that. It has happened and quite recently, but you have to get used to, I think as long as you go to a customer and say, there's a problem, but here's the solution, rather than go, here's the problem, they'll be like, well, what's the solution? And they don't want you to come to them with problems. And I think if there is something that has to change, we can't deliver on something, we explain why, we explain the options, and then we give a recommendation of which option to go for. And you will have to specify risks and how we mitigate those risks. And I didn't realise it was such an art to do until I realised that others in my team can't quite do it the same way as I do it, because I thought it was just natural. So, and it's working out how to teach that. How do you, something that you find natural, how do you teach that to somebody else? So that's, as I said, it's only realised in the last few months, sorry. So yeah, it's interesting.
How can someone learn that though? Because that to me seems like a skill that you will pick up over time. It's not. I don't think it's anything that you can truly teach. Okay, like, all right, guys, we're gonna have a session on how we do this. I don't think that it's as simple or as black and white as that. I think it's maybe something that you pick up over time. I
think there are people that are more confident than others to wing it, as they say. But yeah, I think you're right. That type of experience comes through watching how others do it, maybe in a manner you don't quite like, or how others do it in a manner you do like, and you sort of mold that to your own way, which is, again, part and parcel of being like a solo entrepreneur, CEO person, it's such, it's a learning experience every day, because you realize all of these things that you can't just train or pass on, and again, it's just, I think it's consistency on that one then. And that's what I always try and do, is be consistent with how I am with staff, with customers, and when the whatever does hit the fan, it's like, what's the options? What's the problem? What's the options? And then we go to the customer with the swan analogy, as it were. And it is just that no one wants to be paying for someone that
as
looks
in
like
being
they're
calm
panicking
on the top and paddling help like a lot of it, right? Yeah.
I mean, we've done that so many times, and I'm sure our customers know it, but they much prefer, in an emergency, you're going to follow the person that's all nice and calm, not this guy screaming and shouting, or woman screaming and shouting.
For sure.
So, yeah.
How much of that do you think is resilience? Because I mean, it was. I know the only reason I say that is it was a prominent theme in one of the previous conversations we've had, where potentially with younger generations coming through, being specialists at a technology or a solution, but they lack the very real human skills of resilience, confidence, the ability to talk to a person, very basic stuff. But how much of a role does resilience play in that kind of approach?
I think quite a lot.
How?
I was just thinking that through. I mean, because not everybody is going to react in the manner you want them to, and you have to be a little bit thick-skinned sometimes to get the job done, which is a really hard thing for me to do, because I take things quite personally. But that's because I am a bit of a perfectionist. But you do have to be resilient. You have to know what you're doing and what you're saying to that person is true, and that's the one thing I don't like, is going to a customer when I don't know the full facts. But resilience, it's just showing up and keep on, despite the fact that you might really not want to talk to them because you really don't want to let them down. If you've got a good enough relationship. So this is where what I was talking about with relationships and trust beforehand, is if they really truly trust and trust you within that relationship, when it goes a little wrong, they're a little bit more understanding, I'd say, just by the nature of the whole relationship. So, but resilience does definitely need to be lent on a bit.
I like what you said there as well, actually, about knowing the full facts of something, because something I was taught very, very early on, actually, in my working career was, and I don't know why I said it like that, as if like I haven't had a working career, but I have had a working career, was that even if you don't know, just communicate that you don't know, but that you are going to find out. Because I think it's that gap, isn't it, between what you don't want to happen is for the client or the customer to go, I am now aware of a problem and you haven't communicated it to me.
Yeah.
Why do I know about this problem before you do?
Yeah, actually.
Because and that's something I'm fearful of even today. Like I'm always fearful of it. Like I've got to know this before they do. But even if I don't have the answer, look, this is the problem. I'm investigating it. Leave it with me and I will find the answer. Yeah,
that's true, because that one I worked for a CTO once, and he was really hot on that. He says as soon as anyone knows that there's a problem, you must let everybody know. We're working on it. This is the problem, so that we don't look stupid. And someone comes to us and goes, "Oh, so and so's not working." And so you're right. I won't. When I say I'll only go with them solutions, it will be, yes, we're having an issue, we've got an issue, but we're looking into it and we'll get back to you.
But that's a solution in itself,
exactly.
Isn't it? Yeah,
and that's communication. That's part and parcel of the whole relationship piece, isn't it? Is communicating and making sure they're aware that you're on it and you haven't just missed it completely.
But this is where I think a lot of people fall down, and is the fear factor. And it's what you said earlier, is like the fear of how someone might react.
Yeah.
I won't say this yet because I don't have it all figured out in my head. But actually, the waiting part is probably the worst thing you can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just being fearful of their reaction is quite detrimental to you.
Yeah. I think as I've worked longer and got that career path, as it were, I think I've started to realise that people don't mind if you don't know, as long as you say it, rather than try and make out you do know and you're going to get back to them type thing. And, I've seen people do both, and usually the latter is not received well, because the people we deal with are not, they're not silly. They're usually either heads of IT or heads of finance, and they will know when someone's not quite telling the truth, because they've got that radar inbuilt, I think. Yeah,
they definitely have a good BS radar. Those kinds of. Well, anybody sort of high up in an organization, they don't get there by accident.
No,
they get there, on merit and intelligence and work ethic.
Yeah,
they're gonna spot a BSer from quite a while away.
Yeah.
What do you categorize as, or what do you classify as a small business? Whether it be headcount, revenue, like what would you classify as a small business nowadays?
Well, I'd say any. I mean, my business has scaled 10 times over the last 5 years. So, and we're still classed as a small business. So anything, I'd say one-man band through to, I don't know, probably a couple of £1 million turnover, I'd say probably.
Yeah. It's strange though, because I everyone seems to have a different definition of what they define as small, because I've heard people talk about SMEs, and that's a very, very broad. That's very, very broad. So when we look at the beginning of that and we look at small businesses, some people say it's up to £10 million turnover. Some people say it's up to 50 staff or 50 headcount. Some people say it's 15 or less, and it's really weird. I don't think we have a pure definition, but
I think 50 staff is huge. To be fair,
it's bigger than you think, isn't it?
It's a lot. That's a lot of work.
I think about when I think about like businesses in general, like when you've got two people, there's just one line of communication between those two, and it's like the communication thing. And you add a third person in, and all of a sudden you've got multiple routes of communication. Yeah, I mean, we've seen that in ourselves, when we went from 2 to 3 people. Wow. And then 7, then 10, it's like, and everyone always says, you never communicate with us. And it's like, I do all the time, but it's just working out the best way to do it. Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, small businesses, I think, are exceptionally agile, and, they have, with the use of some of the tools that we're seeing nowadays with AI, they've got such an opportunity to, don't dream about getting massive, just enjoy that small business feel. Yeah, I mean, I know I'm in that boat where I thought I wanted a big business. Same.
I thought I wanted a performance business, but I definitely don't. I'm quite happy with the sort of boutique lifestyle business. Yeah, I think I'm getting to that point too. Because, we get to such a large, you just get problems that it's not, it becomes problems get
not
bigger,
worth
don't
it.
They?
Yeah, and it's like, it's not worth it. So at the moment, I'm looking at what we're doing. I'm kind of happy where we're at. If it scales, great, but it won't in the same manner it has in the past. It will be, through utilizing IP rather than time and materials, as it were. And that, I think, is small businesses can do that quickly nowadays, and I think that's where we all have a chance to actually get ahead of the big businesses that they won't disappear. Of course they won't disappear, but they're not going to be able to turn things around as quick as we can.
Nice. Dawn, Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Great. Thanks for your time.